Are you frustrated, discouraged, or maybe even upset with your handstands? Well, chances are high we can fix that problem today. You see, the hard thing about learning to handstand is that so many things have to come together at the same time. You have to build specific strength, full body mobility, coordination, and awareness. Some would even argue you have to build courage to get over the fear of handstands. But really, that fear is just a consequence due to the lack of one of those first three things. Over the past couple of years, I've helped personally more than 100 athletes, and indirectly through my online programming, by now close to 1,000 athletes achieved their very first handstand, presto handstand, and even one-arm handstand. By now, I can tell you exactly what it takes to learn a handstand, and especially to learn a handstand fast. So today's video is going to be very direct and straightforward. We're going to talk about why you can't handstand. The first reason why you can't handstand is because you're training absolutely wrong. And no, I don't exactly mean you're not training hard enough, even though training harder might also help you, but it's not what I'm talking about. You see, doing attempts, that's not training. You need to get a training routine. The goal of training is to get better, so you can do a little bit more every single session. Or in other words, the goal of training is progressive overload. Progressive overload requires three things. Number one, we need exercises where we can increase intensity. Number two, we need exercises where we can increase volume. And number three, we need to be consistent. Now, increasing intensity at the gym is easy. You pick up weights and you pick up weights that are heavier, and with that you're doing something harder and intensity goes up. In handstands, it's not quite that easy. We need to basically find exercises that increase the difficulty or increase the pressure that we put on the shoulders. A good example would be the single leg tuck slide to the tuck slide, or wall takeoffs where we over time slowly increase the distance. But if you're only jumping up and falling down, it's impossible to do something harder and easier because that's the only thing you can do. You gotta train at the wall. Number two, we wanna increase volume. Increasing volume in handstands is super easy. You do 5 today, 7 next week, 9 the week after, and so on. The problem again is, if your training is jumping up and falling down, on some workouts, you're gonna hit 3, on some you might hit 8, but on many you're gonna hit 1 or 0. This means that it's impossible for you to actually know what is the volume of training that you have, meaning it's impossible to make adjustments to it. You need to take those attempts and move them to the wall, so you can actually train and progressively overload, so you can do a little bit more every single workout. Lastly, consistency is given as long as those first two criteria are met. If they're not met, it is impossible to create a consistent stimuli for growth. You're going to plateau, you're going to get frustrated, and you're going to quit. Train at the wall. Reason number two why you can't handstand is because you believe that your handstand is going to be easy, or at least your handstand is going to be still. Stand up, do this one with me. On your feet, transform one foot, take your hands out to the side, wiggle them around. You realize something? Your ankle is constantly working. You're never still. And it's exactly the same thing in your handstand. Your handstand is never still. This golden, perfect line where you have to do nothing and it's just perfectly balanced, it doesn't exist. Your handstand is always in the state of falling. You see, this handstand, it falls. We realize that we fall. We counteract, we push ourselves back. But we counteract too far or too little, we're still falling. We react, we push back. Over time, we get better at these reactions. We get earlier with the reaction gets more precise, and we're able to create the illusion of perfect stillness. But standing on one foot like this, we realize something else that's almost more important than the fact that we're always working. What's very important is that our weight is always in the toes. In your handstand, it's exactly the same thing. Your weight has to always be in the fingertips. As soon as the weight drops towards the back of the hands, there's nothing you can do, you fall, you lose. And lastly, the number one reason, the biggest reason why you can't handstand yet is because you're training with your back against the wall. See, I get it. Training with the back against the wall does feel more comfortable. It's gonna make your handstand journey more enjoyable, but it's also gonna just be that. You're just gonna have a whole long journey that's not gonna take you anywhere. Not only are you not gonna get better, but you're also gonna hurt your handstand progress in the long run. There's 3 reasons for that. The first one is just the setup itself. You see, when you're jumping up against the wall, you cannot be perfectly aligned. There's no argument with that. You have to reach over towards the back to reach the wall. by default, you're gonna close your shoulders, which means by default, whenever you get up with your back against the wall, you're training the banana handstand. You're basically training exactly that one thing that we're trying to get rid of. Now I get it. Your argument is you're not really training with your heels on the wall. You're just training very close to the wall, so when you fall over, you can tap the wall and you can kick yourself back straight away. It's not as bad, but it's still pretty bad. Let me explain why. A massive part of learning to handstand and of getting good at handstands is understanding for how long you can fight for a handstand before you have to bail out. If you're training with your back towards the wall and you always kick the wall straight away, you cut yourself short of this opportunity of growth. Meaning you're not gonna build the strength reserves that you would get from fighting for your handstand, but you're also not gonna build that coordination and this understanding for when you have to bail out, and you're not gonna build the actual skill of fighting for your handstand. Which means later on when we leave the wall, you're always going to be uncomfortable because you simply don't know how much further you can go and how much more you can do. It is a vital and fascinating part of handstand training, and if you're training with your back to the wall, cutting yourself short, then honestly, it's your own fault. Now lastly, many of you are saying you're scared of handstand mounts, so you train with your back towards the wall, you're jumping against the wall and then you take your feet off. Again, I get it. It's a great idea. Just the reality of it, unfortunately, is not quite as efficient and as convenient as you might think it is. Here's the problem. You are scared of jumping into a handstand because you're scared of falling over. When you're training at the wall, you're practicing jumping over. You're practicing jumping too far. So really, you're rehearsing, you're drilling inside of your body to do the one thing that you're scared of. We cannot expect that you will ever come away from the wall and then not be scared, you'll just do it. Instead, we need to work other progressions and we need to build confidence and strength in your actual handstand so you're not going to be as scared anymore. So as you can see, training back to the wall is really more a trap of comfort than anything else. You need to turn around and train chest to the wall. Now you might be arguing, chest to wall, it's difficult, it's hard, it's scary. Without the wall is easy, back to the wall is fun. Why would I even train chest to wall? Right now, you sound like a first-year student in medical school who wants to do surgeries. Look, you're gonna get there, just not today. It's not yet time to snip around bodies. Like it's not yet time to train chest to wall handstands. Instead, focus on easier progressions where you can actually increase intensity, increase volume, progressively overload, stay consistent. You're gonna work on L handstand walks and on the wall crawl. The last question is why? Why train handstand chest to the wall where it's so much harder? Why push yourself in every single set to do the hard thing if you could just train comfortably and get good back at the wall and then jump up in the middle of the room? Well, the answer is simple. Because training chest to the wall is the most effective and fastest way for you to learn a proper handstand. But on a deeper level, training handstands properly shows us something about you and about who you are personally. It shows that you're willing to put in your hard work and the smart work. It shows that you're willing to push yourself and that you come to the gym with expectations. That you are training because you actually want to get better at handstands and not just for movement therapy. And instantly, you have my respect. And if you want to know exactly what this looks like, then I left the link to my program down in the description below. And you can see the guys in the comments who already took the course. They'll be able to tell you that those 6, 12 or 18 weeks of training completely changed the way they feel about handstands. If you haven't checked them out yet, have a look at these 2 videos here. Subscribe, hit the notification bell, get to work.